Greetings to everyone that is going to be watching this vlog. My name is Simba. I am the president of the African Heritage Foundation, and we will be doing a series of vlogs. Different people will be presenting, but I'm doing the first one. And this first vlog is going to relate to the announcement by the Attorney General this morning as it relates to sacramental use of cannabis by the Rastafari community and their human rights and the government's acknowledgement of this. To do this, I want to start by giving you a history of how some of this developed. Some months back, probably early this year or late last year, a group of Rastafari brothers and sisters invited a lawyer, Douglas Trotman, who was very key in all the proceedings, and before going further, we have to acknowledge the role of Douglas in this whole cannabis movement. Actually, it was Douglas who asked me a question earlier on if the Rastafari community had ever made a legal challenge for their right to use cannabis in the court of law, to which I said, not to my knowledge, I wasn't aware of that. Anyhow, meeting was organized and Douglas was invited to speak to the Rastafari community. Members came out, some members of the community came out, and the same question was asked. And it was suggested at that time by Douglas that that should be an option put on the table by the Rastafari community. Some time went by, nothing had happened. Douglas reached out to me again, and I said, well, I hadn't heard anything from the others, but I personally was willing to go forward with the case. He agreed to do the case, but he also told me that by myself I would have a good chance, but if supported by a Rastafari grouping, I would have a better chance, or there would be a better chance of winning the case. So, being a Nyabingi brother within my Rastafari tradition, 28 years now, I was, you could say, raised and groomed in the house of Nyabingi, the oil of the Nyabingi theocracy reign. And I went to the house of Nyabingi, some of the elders, and put the situation on the table. They agreed to give me support. We met with the lawyer, Douglas, and we were told what to do. So we've been following Douglas's instruction up to this point. Fast forward a little bit, the government has embarked on a medicinal cannabis industry bill, which was just passed yesterday. It has to go to Senate and all these good things. But before that happened, when it was first presented in Parliament, thanks to the opposition, Joe Adderley, there was a joint select committee meeting to which the public was invited to make presentations on their opinions of the bill, suggestions, things they didn't like, and things like that. It so happened that we got an invitation from the Minister of Agriculture in Delaware, and we were invited to make a presentation. This is the African Heritage Foundation, of which I am the president of. That is a charitable organization, African-centered organization, as the name implies. Again, we happen to be the first one, myself and another member of the foundation, Felicia Holder. We made a presentation at this meeting, first out of the box. And within that presentation, we made representation for the traditional indigenous use of the cannabis plant by everyone and anyone, and this of course we'll be talking about adult use, by anyone in the Barbadian society. But as a Rastaman, I made a representation also on behalf of myself for the sacramental use of cannabis. I also made mention that the Attorney General spoke in great length about a treaty that he was given the wrong ear all the time, you know. But I said that there were other treaties that Barbados was signed on to that should be mentioned and, you know, give a legal case for sacramental use, legal sacramental use. For those who watched it, you know, the Attorney General asked, you know, what was the difference between recreational and sacramental, and he said that everything other than medicinal would be decided by referendum, to which I said that, you know, it was an insult to Rastafari really to have their sacramental use of the plant be decided by a public vote within the suggested referendum. The meeting was held over a period of 2 sessions. At the second session, Rastafari grouping ICAR made representation by the Adonijah. He spoke and basically saying, you know, a lot of what was said, which is the official position of Rastafari. So no matter who brings it, whether myself, Adonijah, you know, it is all the same thing. We have a united position on this. The Attorney General at that time, after Adonijah's presentation, acknowledged, you know, that there was legal considerations for the use of cannabis as a sacrament by Rastafari. Within that same meeting, Douglas Trotman would make a presentation, and he would have indicated and said on the record, as he stated, that the government should not make the Rastafari community, i.e. himself and me, take them to court because it was a case that they could not win. Since then, the house of the Nyabingi, which I said, you know, earlier, had agreed, you know, members of the elders, some of the elders had agreed to support, you know. It was taken to the house once again. You know, the house has 2 tabernacles, so this is one tabernacle we're talking about. So it was taken to the other tabernacle, and all the tabernacles have agreed. Hence the image that would have been in the paper today, where a decision was made by the brethren and sistren of those 2 tabernacles to create a position paper which stated the history of the Nyabingi, the science of the plant, legal considerations, which include considerations for the general public, in that put forward in there would be international treaties, again, that Barbados is signed on to, that speaks to indigenous and cultural use, and, you know, what is it called now? When something belongs to, you know, your intellectual property. That's the word I'm looking for. The intellectual property of the plant and things like this. So that document was presented to the Prime Minister yesterday, and the Nyabingi then went to the Nation, as you saw, and there was the article published with the picture coming just straight from the Prime Minister's office delivering this document. At the same time, as you would know, the AG was in Parliament talking about the sacramental bill. Last week, Monday, I got a call from a brethren of mine, a Rastafari brethren, who was also instrumental in inviting the community to listen to the brother Douglas Trotman in the meeting that I spoke of before. He told me that he had gotten a call from the AG's office and was invited to a meeting the same morning at the AG's office. He said when he got to the AG's office, Brother Adonijah was there, and one of the early things that the AG would have said was that they couldn't allow Simba and Douglas Trotman to take them to court. Thus, they were going to draft a bill for sacramental use. So, he also said that within the discussions, a lot of problematic areas came up, like where would be considered spaces where Rastafari could commune and use the plant, and things like that. day or two later, I received a WhatsApp message, a forwarded message, which was a letter that ICAR, Brother Adonijah, had penned to the Attorney General, stating his dissatisfaction with the haste in which the bill was seeming to be coming and in many problematic areas. I understand that this was also made public within the Facebook forum on social media, so feel free to talk about it. So we're here at this point where yesterday the Attorney General has announced the oncoming sacramental bill for Rastafari. And while at first glance this seems like a good thing, and it is a good thing in a number of aspects, Rastafari has always been a representative of the people. Rastafari has been the movement to address the issue of our colonial past and the residues of our colonial past. Rastafari has been the movement that has upheld African spirituality, our deity, a man, our God, our Christ, our nucleus, Haile Selassie, a champion Pan-Africanist, the Rastafari movement has always been the champions of the people. And thus the case that will still be brought against the government includes adult personal use and some sort of compensation for cannabis people that have been incarcerated and disenfranchised and disadvantaged by a cannabis law, which I may say, using the Attorney General's words as I read in the papers today, that they cannot continue to infringe on the rights. I don't think he used infringe, but the word I want to concentrate on is continue, which suggests that he knew all the time this 18 months to end. It was in the manifesto about helping the Rastafari and things, so they were doing medicinal bill and things. And there was no really consideration for sacramental use or traditional use or anything for the people, for Rastafari, anybody. Until Douglas Trotman made the suggestion that we take them to court. So we understand clearly that the government is in a bind. So I'm making this vlog with the history of our cannabis advocacy. You're not the only ones that have been advocating, but we are the ones that are at the steps of the court. So Douglas messaged me this morning and we spoke, clarified situations, and we agreed that this doesn't change anything. Further to this, if someone is going to put you in court for wrong against them and you want to settle out of court, you should meet with the people that is going to put you in court. So the government by right should be beaten with Douglas Trotman and myself, because the case being brought goes way beyond this. Douglas also told me this morning that he was asked for the documents and the cases, the precedents set internationally, which we spoke about. So it is clear that the government isn't doing this in the best interest of Rastafari. They're doing what is right, yes, and the Attorney General said that they can no longer continue, despite what anybody thinks, church, heathen, no matter what anybody thinks. It is a human right guaranteed to all, including Rastafari, and you just have to live with it. So the government is not doing Rastafari any favors. So it is not a favor that they're doing us. So until the government is really ready to get this thing straight, put the horse before the cart, Mr. Attorney General, because I know this can get to you at some point, you need to get in contact with Mr. Douglas Trotman, because the hour will soon be at hand. Right now, the Nyabingi is going through seven actually, nights of ISIS in relation to the coronation, the 89th coronation of His Majesty. Mr. Attorney General, they like to talk about the science. Now this is the science of Nyabingi. This is the fire of Nyabingi. The documents were delivered on the 4th day of these ISIS, the same day that you spoke in Parliament regarding Rastafari sacramental use. You say that you're not a Muslim, you're not a Hindu, you're not a Rastafari. But all these have spiritual orders that should not be taken lightly or should not be taken for granted. So, I want to conclude this short opening vlog by saying thank you to everyone who has taken the time to listen to me. As I said, we are from the African Heritage Foundation, a registered charitable organization. We have a website. The website is africanheritage.com. African is spelled with a K, so that is AFRIKAN, heritage.com. And if you type in cannabis in the search, you will see a ton load of articles on cannabis from various perspectives. A whole set of different articles, but as we're dealing with cannabis, this is the situation. We also have a survey, a cannabis survey that we have done. The survey is still open for those who want to take it, because I'm sure these things will be useful in the course of law, as everything is always, evidence to what we have done, research done, and why we are bringing this position, not only in representation of Rastafari, as I said, but in representation of the people of Barbados. Even though Rastafari have been the obvious victims, because we are easily identifiable and we were the ones, the advocates out front with it, so we took the brunt of the abuse, but we have not been the only ones in the society that have been abused and disadvantaged by this prohibition, this law that the government has kept on our heads and still has, making us all cannabis criminals in this society. Oh, before I go, Mr. AG, if you let go the Rastafari and leave the other people criminals, you know what is going to happen, my brother? You're turning people against one another. If you check the Antigua situation, when the Prime Minister Gaston Brown did the same thing for Rastafari. Rastafari then was attacked by the people. So they had now to try and arm the Rastas to defend themselves and all sorts of foolishness. In my estimation, if you're going to free the Rasta, you have to free the people. One don't come without the next. Because whether Rastafari is free or not, we will always champion the rights of the people. We're coming off of Marcus Garvey blood, off of Leonard Howell blood, Rasbone G's Bongo Water, off of Bob Marley. So, again, it's time for me to close, but I think we have 20 minutes and I'm not going past 20 minutes. Consider these words, Mr. AG. The case is still at hand. Nothing has changed. You can fool some of the people sometimes, and maybe some of the people all the time, but you will never be able to fool all the people all the time. Rastafari guidance and blessings to all. Walk with my people.